Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. As we kick off a new week, let's take a look at 4 key economic events that deserve attention in the coming days. 1. Nvidia earnings report on Wednesday. Undoubtedly, the most anticipated event is Nvidia's Q3 earnings release on Wednesday. Why is this such a hot topic on Wall Street? Because it could set the tone for the next phase of the US stock market. Over the past 2 years, Nvidia has been instrumental in sustaining the bull market, with its stock skyrocketing by an astounding 800%. This has not only cemented its position as one of the world's most valuable companies, but also buoyed the broader US market. Every quarter, skeptics question the sustainability of Nvidia's meteoric rise, only for the company to silence them with strong earnings. Will this week's report live up to expectations, or will analysts find reasons to nitpick? Wall Street is optimistic, forecasting an 80% plus revenue growth for Q3. Morgan Stanley is even more bullish, predicting growth over 82%. However, this raises a larger question: can Nvidia's success alone guarantee a healthy US stock market, particularly the tech sector? While Nvidia's performance is extraordinary, it doesn't represent the broader market. Currently, the S&P 500's P/E ratio exceeds 22, far above the historical average of 15.7. The bubble concerns in tech stocks are real, but Nvidia's exceptional growth is driven by unique factors, such as its dominance in AI chips. Interestingly, a significant portion of Nvidia's revenue stems from global governments stockpiling advanced AI chips as part of their strategic military ambitions, a factor largely overlooked by mainstream discussions. 2. Federal Reserve officials' speeches. This week, several Federal Reserve officials will step into the spotlight with forward guidance. Last Friday, Fed Chair Jerome Powell delivered a blunt message: with the US economy so robust, the Fed sees no urgency to cut rates. While markets had tempered their expectations to just a modest 25 basis point rate cut in December, Powell's remarks have cast even that into doubt. Fed officials are likely to reinforce this message throughout the week, applying downward pressure on market sentiment. 3. Inflation data from the Eurozone and Canada. On Tuesday, the Eurozone will release its final CPI data for October, and Canada will unveil its inflation figures for the same month. These reports are critical for understanding the economic health of these regions and the potential direction of their monetary policies. 4. November PMI data on Friday. Friday brings PMI releases from the US, Eurozone, and the UK, offering a preliminary look at economic activity for November. As a leading economic indicator, PMI can provide valuable insights into what December might hold for the global economy. Stay tuned as these events unfold. They'll provide crucial clues about the trajectory of the global markets and the economy. Secondly, Bloomberg recently highlighted an important topic: Trump's anti-regulation pitch is exactly what the AI industry wants to hear. As the AI boom drives US stock market gains and sparks global interest in a potential new tech revolution, it also raises significant debates about oversight. The rapid development of AI has governments and industries grappling with ethical and legal concerns, ranging from AI's potential misuse in lethal applications to its impact on public safety and societal norms. This leaves AI at a crossroads. On one hand, there's immense enthusiasm for innovation; on the other, growing calls for regulation to prevent misuse. Enter Donald Trump, a decisive figure whose policies could shape the trajectory of AI development in the US. The global regulatory landscape. Currently, the US and Europe are at the forefront of demanding stricter AI regulation. Meanwhile, Japan has emerged as a haven for AI development due to its more lenient policies, attracting companies and research centers seeking a friendlier environment. If Trump returns to the White House, his stance on AI will be pivotal. During his campaign, Trump vowed to repeal President Biden's 2023 executive order on AI, which established a framework to mitigate some of the risks associated with emerging technologies. Trump criticized Biden's approach as overly restrictive, arguing that it could stifle innovation. A divided perspective within the GOP. While the AI industry largely views Trump's potential leadership as an opportunity for deregulation, his policies may not be straightforward. For example, in September, Trump's daughter Ivanka shared a post on X, formerly Twitter, describing a chilling scenario of AI use in a hypothetical war with China. Her post drew mixed reactions. Some interpreted it as a warning about China's growing AI capabilities and the need for the US to stay competitive, while others saw it as a cautionary tale about AI's potential to escalate global conflicts. This underscores a broader divide within Trump's camp and the Republican Party regarding AI. While Trump himself seems inclined to reduce regulatory hurdles, his team may face challenges reconciling conflicting views on AI's risks and benefits. What's next? Bloomberg notes that Trump's specific AI policies may evolve in the coming months. Republicans will need to clarify their stance on the inherent contradictions in AI regulation. However, one thing is clear: Trump opposes Biden's stringent regulatory framework, and this position has made him a favorable figure among many in the AI industry. For now, Trump's leadership offers the promise of a more flexible regulatory environment, something that could significantly influence the future of US AI development. Next, let's talk about the media revolution, how new platforms are reshaping America's information landscape. New media's dominance in US politics. The Wall Street Journal recently published an analysis titled "Trump's Win Cemented It, New Media is Leaving the Old Guard Behind." The report highlights the explosive growth of podcasts and platforms like TikTok as primary news sources, emphasizing the declining influence of traditional outlets like TV networks and newspapers. This shift, evident in the 2024 election, underscores a profound transformation in how Americans consume and engage with political discourse. Donald Trump's resounding victory in the 2024 presidential election demonstrates his mastery of this new media landscape. Despite traditional media's overwhelmingly anti-Trump stance, its political influence has waned significantly since 2016. By leveraging podcasts and social media, Trump bypassed mainstream channels, creating direct and impactful connections with voters. One standout example was Trump's 3-hour conversation with Joe Rogan, a podcast episode that garnered over 45 million views on YouTube and an additional 25 million listens across other platforms. On election night, Rogan was one of the most prominent figures at Trump's victory celebration, symbolizing the ascendancy of new media voices in political narratives. The decline of traditional media. As more Americans turn to diverse platforms for information, traditional media's gatekeeping role is rapidly eroding. Over the past decade, the monthly podcast audience in the US has more than doubled. According to Pew Research Center, over half of TikTok users regularly get news from the platform. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's acquisition of X, formerly Twitter, has amplified political content, especially from right-leaning voices, further altering the digital media landscape. This transformation has led to declining viewership for legacy outlets. On election night, the combined audience for major cable networks dropped 32% compared to 2020, with CNN losing nearly half its viewers. The result is a fragmented media ecosystem where Americans are exposed to vastly different narratives about the same events, deepening the divide in political discourse. The rise of Blue Sky and the battle for decentralized platforms. In a related development, the New York Times explored the rapid growth of Blue Sky, a decentralized social media platform originally conceptualized by Twitter founder Jack Dorsey. Launched as an invite-only project in 2023, Blue Sky aimed to offer an alternative to platforms like X and Facebook, emphasizing decentralization and independence from corporate or political control. However, recent events have tested Blue Sky's principles. Amid an exodus of users from X, Blue Sky's user base surged to 15 million in just 1 week, propelling it to the top of App Store charts. This rapid growth has stretched its 20-person team to the limit, forcing them to address technical issues and content moderation challenges while managing user expectations. Initially envisioned as a non-profit initiative, Blue Sky relied on funding from Twitter during Dorsey's tenure. After Musk severed ties following his acquisition of X, Blue Sky turned to private investors, raising $23 million in venture capital. This shift raises questions about its future, as venture-backed platforms typically face pressure to prioritize profitability over idealistic goals. Analysis: the challenges ahead. While Blue Sky has garnered significant attention, its long-term prospects remain uncertain. Historically, efforts to challenge established giants like X or Amazon have struggled due to entrenched market dynamics and consumer preferences. Platforms like X thrive on diversity of opinions and viewpoints, offering a unique mix of content that attracts users. In contrast, platforms that cater to specific political or ideological niches risk creating echo chambers, which can quickly lose appeal even among their target audiences. Despite its initial promise, Blue Sky's reliance on venture capital could compromise its founding ideals, steering it toward commercial priorities. This tension between idealism and survival is a recurring challenge for decentralized platforms in a competitive and profit-driven tech landscape. Conclusion: a media ecosystem in flux. The ongoing media revolution is reshaping not only the political landscape but also the way individuals interact with information. As traditional media continues to decline, new platforms are filling the void, offering opportunities for more direct and diverse engagement. However, the sustainability of these new players, like Blue Sky, depends on their ability to balance innovation, independence, and financial viability. This evolution in media warrants further observation and debate, as it will profoundly impact both politics and daily life. What are your thoughts on this shift? Let's discuss in the comments. Next, let's turn our attention to Taiwan in Asia. Taiwan's semiconductor giant TSMC, navigating the geopolitical tightrope, balancing US and Chinese demands. The Economist recently published an in-depth analysis titled TSMC Walks a Geopolitical Tightrope, spotlighting the complex challenges facing Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, TSMC. As the world's most valuable chipmaker and a crucial player in the global tech industry, TSMC's position is increasingly precarious amid escalating tensions between the United States and China. TSMC has been thriving, doubling its sales since early 2020 and solidifying its status as the sole supplier of AI chips for Nvidia. As demand for automotive chips cools, TSMC is betting on a surge in artificial intelligence applications to fuel its growth. Investors share this optimism, with TSMC's market capitalization nearing $1 trillion, placing it among the world's top 10 most valuable companies. However, being a tech giant on an island claimed by China places TSMC in a delicate situation. Until recently, it even benefited from the US-China rivalry, as Chinese firms, restricted from accessing Nvidia chips due to American sanctions, turned to TSMC to produce their own. Geopolitical pressures intensify. Recent developments, however, reveal the mounting pressures TSMC faces. Last month, the company disclosed that some of its Chinese clients were integrating TSMC-manufactured chips into advanced AI processors designed by Huawei. Since 2020, Huawei has been barred from collaborating with TSMC and other Western suppliers due to US sanctions. Although Huawei denies violating these restrictions, TSMC has taken a cautious stance. Starting November 11, TSMC announced it would cease using its cutting-edge manufacturing technology to produce AI chips for Chinese customers. This decision is expected to hit China's AI chip designers and startups hard. While TSMC's short-term losses from these restrictions are relatively minor, affecting an estimated 5 to 8% of its sales, the long-term risks of stricter regulatory scrutiny and further client bans remain significant. Pressure from Taiwan's government. TSMC's challenges are not limited to navigating US-China tensions. Taiwan's government has grown increasingly vocal about safeguarding its semiconductor dominance. According to the Taipei Times, a government minister recently stated that TSMC's most advanced manufacturing technologies must remain in Taiwan. This position directly counters US expectations. Washington has urged TSMC to transfer its most advanced chip manufacturing capabilities to American soil. However, Taiwan insists that cutting-edge processes, such as TSMC's upcoming N2 production line set to launch in 2025, stay within the island. Only slightly older technologies will be allowed for expansion in the US and Japan. Analysis: a tightrope walk on multiple fronts. TSMC's situation illustrates the multifaceted pressures facing companies operating at the intersection of global supply chains and geopolitics. It must balance competing demands from the US, which seeks to bolster its domestic chip-making capabilities, and China, a major market for semiconductors. Simultaneously, TSMC must adhere to Taiwan's strategic priorities, which aim to retain its technological edge as a shield against potential external threats. This environment forces TSMC to make strategic compromises. By halting advanced chip production for Chinese clients, it demonstrates alignment with US policies. At the same time, TSMC's commitment to keeping its most advanced processes in Taiwan reflects its recognition of Taiwan's interests in maintaining semiconductor supremacy. Conclusion: a strategic chessboard. TSMC's ability to navigate these geopolitical and domestic pressures will significantly shape its future and the broader semiconductor industry. Its position as a global tech leader means its decisions carry far-reaching implications for US-China competition, Taiwan security, and the global supply chain. The question remains, how long can TSMC balance these competing demands without compromising its innovation or market leadership? Let's discuss your thoughts in the comments. The next big news is Ukraine gains US approval to strike inside Russia. A recent analysis in The Economist sheds light on a pivotal development in the Russia-Ukraine war. The Biden administration has authorized Ukraine to use American missiles to target locations within Russia. This marks a significant shift in US policy, one rooted in changing geopolitical dynamics and new strategic calculations. To understand the significance of this decision, The Economist revisited the reasons behind the original restrictions. Why the US previously restricted Ukrainian strikes? The Biden administration had three primary reasons for initially barring Ukraine from using American missiles against targets within Russia. 1. Limited supply. The US argued that the missiles provided to Ukraine were in finite supply, and attacking Russian targets might strain these resources. 2. Minimal impact. Officials claimed that even with US missiles, strikes on Russian territory would have limited strategic value due to the missile's capabilities and the scope of achievable damage. 3. Escalation risks. The most pragmatic concern was the fear that such strikes could provoke a dangerous escalation, potentially spiraling the conflict out of control. These reasons, while diplomatically articulated, have faced criticism for lacking coherence or persuasive weight, especially as the war has evolved. Why the policy has changed? According to The Economist, the US decision to lift these restrictions is closely tied to Russia's invitation to North Korean forces to join its campaign in Ukraine. This development signals a significant escalation by Moscow, prompting Washington to adapt its strategy. The Biden administration now argues that Russia's actions have altered the status quo, necessitating a stronger response to counterbalance the evolving threat. Implications and strategic goals. The Economist identifies three key implications of this decision. Phased implementation. The US is not granting Ukraine unrestricted use of its missiles immediately. Initially, strikes will be limited to areas like the Kursk region, territory already under Russian control. This cautious rollout is intended to minimize the immediate risk of a dramatic escalation in the conflict. Broadening European involvement. The US decision has indirectly loosened restrictions on the use of advanced weaponry supplied by other Western allies, including British and French cruise missiles, such as the Storm Shadow. With America lifting its restrictions, the UK and France are expected to follow suit. This move also increases pressure on Germany, which has been reluctant to supply its Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. The timing is particularly critical for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who faces mounting criticism from opposition leader Friedrich Merz. As Merz positions himself as a more decisive figure in Germany's upcoming elections, Scholz's hesitation could cost him politically. Russia's potential response. While the Kremlin predictably condemned the US move as adding fuel to the fire, The Economist suggests that Washington has weighed Russia's likely reactions. Despite fears of nuclear escalation, the Biden administration believes such concerns are overblown. Instead, the US anticipates Russia will focus on indirect retaliation, such as increasing support for Yemen's Houthi rebels via Iran, supplying advanced missiles and satellite data, engaging in covert operations, including sabotage and targeted assassinations within Europe, escalating cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns against Western nations. These risks, described as horizontal escalation, represent manageable threats rather than existential crises for the US and its allies. Strategic calculations behind Biden's move. The policy shift also serves broader geopolitical objectives. By citing North Korea's involvement as a justification, the Biden administration seeks to send a message not only to Russia but also to its other adversaries, emphasizing that the US will not shy away from intensifying support for its allies when provocations arise. Conclusion: a calculated gamble. While lifting missile restrictions introduces new risks, the Biden administration appears confident that these are manageable and necessary steps to counter Russia's growing aggression. The phased approach and coordinated actions with European allies aim to limit immediate escalation while increasing pressure on Moscow. Whether this move significantly alters the course of the conflict remains uncertain, but it underscores Washington's intent to adapt to changing circumstances. What do you think of this shift? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The G20 summit in Brazil has brought several notable developments to the forefront of international politics this week. While the annual gathering is often dismissed as more ceremonial than substantive, this year's summit has presented for significant storylines worth discussing. 1. A muted stance on global conflicts. One of the central aspects of this summit was the final communiqué, which downplayed divisions over the Ukraine war and the Middle East crisis. Brazil, the host nation, took a diplomatic approach to draft a report that sidestepped explicit mentions of Russia's invasion of Ukraine or the specifics of the ongoing wars. Instead, the communiqué used ambiguous language, emphasizing the impact of conflicts on global food and energy security, inflation, economic growth, human suffering. For instance, the mention of global grain exports was a veiled reference to Ukraine, while concerns about energy security pointed indirectly to Russia. Such vague expressions highlight the compromises made to maintain unity, though critics argued this approach renders the summit largely symbolic. 2. South African President's Birthday Spotlight. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa unexpectedly became a media focal point at the summit, though not for policy reasons. His 72nd birthday coincided with the event, and he celebrated it in Brazil amidst international attention. Another layer of intrigue came from Ramaphosa's enthusiastic endorsement of Donald Trump following the latter's U.S. presidential election win. Ramaphosa believes Trump's presidency could benefit South Africa due to the connection between Tesla CEO Elon Musk, a South African native, and Trump. While this logic has drawn skepticism and even humor in Western media, it reflects Ramaphosa's optimism about leveraging Musk's influence for his country's benefit. 3. China's showy display sparks backlash. China's presence at the G20 summit sparked controversy as it orchestrated large-scale displays of support for President Xi Jinping. According to Reuters, local Chinese embassy officials mobilized supporters to wave Chinese flags along Xi's motorcade route. Television footage also showed an abundance of Chinese flags prominently placed near the summit venue, giving the impression of a China-centric event. Critics have labeled these actions as tone-deaf and self-serving, with international media describing them as a poorly executed propaganda effort. Rather than boosting China's image, such displays have drawn ridicule, overshadowing Beijing's intended diplomatic messaging. 4. Argentina's Milei stands out as a maverick. The most impactful political story came from Argentina's President Javier Milei, who took on the role of a disruptor at the summit. According to Bloomberg, Milei's defiance during the drafting of the final communiqué set him apart from other leaders. Milei objected to multiple sections of the document, particularly those advocating for measures like wealth taxes on billionaires, stricter climate change commitments. While he ultimately did not block the communiqué, he insisted that Argentina's dissent be explicitly noted, a rare move for G20 meetings, which traditionally aim for consensus. This act of defiance reflects Milei's libertarian approach and resistance to policies he views as overly left-leaning or detrimental to Argentina's interests. Conclusion: a summit of contrasts. From diplomatic balancing acts to personal celebrations and geopolitical posturing, the G20 summit in Brazil encapsulated a mix of substantive and symbolic developments. While the event highlighted ongoing divisions over global conflicts and policy priorities, it also showcased the diverse motivations and agendas of its participants. What are your thoughts on this year's G20 summit? Share your perspective in the comments below. Next, let's talk about Javier Milei. A year into his presidency, Javier Milei has captured international attention and stirred significant debate over his radical libertarian policies. As global media examines Milei's impact, key questions emerge: is he delivering tangible results, or are his efforts largely ideological? Let's explore recent insights from Bloomberg and Reuters, two major outlets analyzing Milei's performance. 1. Bloomberg's balanced perspective. Bloomberg has historically viewed Milei with skepticism, but its latest analysis acknowledges his early successes while flagging future uncertainties. Key achievements: economic recovery and inflation, which peaked at nearly 300%, is now declining. Fiscal discipline: Argentina's chronic budget deficit has turned into a surplus. Debt and investments: government bonds, once near default, are regaining value. Economic growth: a long stagnant economy shows signs of revival. Even Bloomberg admits that Milei's first year has outperformed expectations, particularly for a leader with such a radical agenda. Remaining challenges: while recognizing these wins, Bloomberg highlights critical hurdles. Sustainable growth: can Milei turn these short-term gains into lasting prosperity for ordinary Argentinians? International support. Success depends on securing IMF loans and attracting significant foreign investments. Public sentiment. Though Argentinians have shown patience, dissatisfaction with austerity measures, such as budget cuts to education and pensions, is growing. Bloomberg concludes that Milei represents a unique experiment in libertarian economics. If he succeeds, his policies could become a model for other nations, particularly smaller economies grappling with similar challenges. 2. Reuters' optimistic take. Reuters offers a more bullish assessment of Milei's first year, emphasizing investor confidence and market performance. Positive market reactions. Stock and bond gains. Argentinian stocks and dollar-denominated bonds have reached record highs, fueled by faith in Milei's economic reforms. Fiscal reforms. 10 consecutive months of budget surpluses mark a major turnaround. Tighter monetary policy. Milei ended the printing of pesos, a move cheered by investors. Despite these successes, Argentina faces enduring struggles. Inflation. While falling, inflation remains in triple digits. Currency woes. The peso lost 19% of its value this year. Poverty. Over half of Argentina's 46 million people live in poverty. Protests against austerity measures, such as cuts to university budgets and pensions, indicate the limits of public tolerance. However, many Argentinians still back Milei's fight against inflation, which they see as the root cause of their hardships. Future outlook. With inflation projected to fall to 29% by 2025, its lowest level since 2017, Reuters suggests that Milei's reforms are gradually reshaping Argentina's economy. 3. What does this mean for Milei's legacy? Both analyses highlight Milei's determination to implement his libertarian vision, often at great political risk. He has delivered early wins, particularly in stabilizing Argentina's economy, but faces mounting pressure to ensure these reforms translate into broad-based benefits for ordinary citizens. As protests and economic challenges persist, Milei's ability to navigate these complexities will determine whether his presidency becomes a model of libertarian success or another cautionary tale in Argentina's turbulent history. We'll continue to monitor Milei's progress in reshaping Argentina's future. What's your take on his first year? Share your thoughts below. Finally, let's focus on the shaky German political scene. Germany's political landscape is undergoing a significant transformation as the nation prepares for parliamentary elections on February 23, 2024. Following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's ruling coalition, recent polls reveal a strong lead for conservative parties, signaling a potential rightward shift with profound implications for Germany and the European Union. 1. Polling insights. According to Bloomberg's latest analysis, polling data from the week ending November 18 shows clear trends. Christian Democratic Union (CDU), the centre-right party led by Friedrich Merz, formerly headed by Angela Merkel, holds a commanding lead with 32.3% support. Alternative for Germany (AfD), the far-right party, comes in second with 18.8%, reflecting growing populist sentiment. Social Democratic Party (SPD), Chancellor Scholz's centre-left party lags significantly at 15.8%, highlighting diminishing public confidence in his leadership. These results suggest that Germany's next government will almost certainly lean to the right, marking a notable departure from its recent political course. 2. The broader implications of Germany's rightward shift. Germany is not just another European country, it is the EU's largest economy and a cornerstone of its political stability. A marked turn to the right in Germany would reshape EU policies. A conservative-led Germany might push for stricter migration policies, fiscal conservatism, and a recalibration of EU integration efforts. Impact on Franco-German relations. With France facing its own political challenges, a right-leaning Germany could alter the dynamic between the EU's two key powers. Strengthen right-wing movements across Europe. While smaller European nations have seen right-wing surges, a similar shift in Germany could embolden conservative movements continent-wide. 3. What's next? As polls indicate a steady trend toward conservatism, analysts are closely watching for further developments. Will CDU consolidate its lead, or will the AfD capitalize on voter dissatisfaction to gain more influence? How will Scholz's SPD respond to regain public trust? This pivotal election has the potential to redefine Germany's political identity and its role within the EU. We'll continue to track this story as the February elections approach. What do you think about Germany's political shift? Let us know in the comments. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.